Well, Harmy, you said a long time before the summer even began that you predicted 6-0 for England, 3-0 against the West Indies, 3-0 against Sri Lanka. You're on course. In many ways, it was a kind of textbook victory. Apart from England's first innings, you don't sort of bank on 100 from your number 8. But the Gus Atkinson summer, do you think in years to come we'll remember this as Gus Atkinson's summer?
I'm sure. I'm hoping he does, because when you're on one of these waves, you keep riding it, don't you, Manners? You've been in cricket long enough that when when the sun's shining, I mean, keep the deck chair out and keep getting the rays as much as you possibly can, because I mean, he'll have some sort of sterner tests and some bumps in the road along the way, in the not too distant future. But hey, while it's coming, you keep going with it. And to be fair, he's done brilliantly. It was important that England win 6 test matches if they want to be the best team in the world. I think there was some issues in that first innings that I think alarm bells would ring. If you want to be the best team in the world, and the decisions you make from a batting point of view, especially the first 3 or 4 dismissals, you're going against one of the big two, the other obviously India and Australia. You make them decisions, you ain't coming back. I mean, 210 for 6. England got themselves, or 216 for 6, I think, when Gus walked out to the crease. You don't come back from that against Australia's attack, or Bumrah and Shami and Siraj with India. So I still think there's some ironing out to be on this baseball road. But I think I've enjoyed the test that Sri Lanka's put to England. They've been a bit more of a sterner test with the bat. So England's bowlers have had to work harder than they did against the West Indies. So I think all in all, I think we're very, very happy where cricket has been this summer in the test match point of view. Players have got hundreds, players have got fifers. It's been spread around. But the one person that doesn't drop in standards, doesn't drop his form, is Joe Root. And I mean, you get 100 in both innings at Lords, you go past the all-time number of 33 of English cricket, and you still don't get player of the match.
It's amazing. We started talking about Gus Atkinson, and we should have been talking about Joe Root. Absolutely incredible. I was quite touched by Sir Alistair Cook, who wouldn't broach any conversation. He just said categorically, England's best ever, England's greatest. He wouldn't even say, okay, I might be in the conversation, but he was just absolutely categorical. Joe Root's the best, and it's very hard to mount a substantial argument against that.
No, not now. I mean, I've always had this of obviously Sir Alistair, Graham Gooch, even the great sort of late Graham Thorpe, David Gower of the left-hander generation. But I've always had Root and Peterson as somebody who, Ian Bell, and as it can be thrown in there as well. But Root and Peterson was always the ones on the tip of my tongue of who is England's greatest that I've seen in the obviously 45 years that I've been around. So I think he's just gone with that 34 Test 100, and where he's going and potentially going past Sachin. Joe is, I think, the greatest that we've ever. I make the joke that he's the best we've ever produced because we didn't produce Kevin, we adopted him.
I was going to say different categories, Harmy. You're talking about the best English batsman and the best batsman to play for England.
I mean, that's it. Best batsman that's ever played for England is Joe Root for me. And Kevin would be the best one that I think you would run out of a bar, or you'd run out of an area where you're in and you're not watching the game. You'd sprint to your seat to go and, right, Peterson's walked out the crease. I mean, the whole ground comes out. I'm trying to sort of have 2 or 3, different greats, aren't I? So I'm going with Joe Root. He is the greatest. And 34 Test match hundreds. If he gets he'll get another 2 to take him to 36. Because there's about 7 or 8 players in the world cricket who have got 34. If he goes to 36, he's in with the likes of Ricky Ponting and Jacques Kallis, Kumar Sangakkara. I mean, then Sachin Tendulkar. The list is then is a pretty exclusive. I mean, big hitting list of great players that have played this game. And Joe Root is definitely up there now with the very, very best.
Okay, let's move on to the captain, Ollie Pope. Michael Vaughan said before the Test match, or was it, I think, after day one, that he was not the kind of personality that he would want captaining him, which was interesting. I don't know the background to that. You probably do. So I'd be very interested to hear what your thoughts are on that. But before we do, let's actually hear from Ollie Pope, whose form with the bat as captain has been underwhelming. He scored 6, 1 and 17. This is what he had to say after the test.
Chatting to Stokesy, I think, before this series, I think when you're captain as well, you're going to attract a lot more. It's just important to block it out, to be honest, and keep staying close with the people around you. There's a lot of voices, a lot of guys who want to have their say, some past cricketers as well. And that's completely fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but it's important for us as a team and me to sort of stay and keep trusting the people in the four walls, because that's not going to help me get back into my best form. And sometimes when you have 2 bad games, then it can almost feel a lot worse than it is because of the noise that's around it. So for me, it's just kind of trying to stay as level as I can and keep trusting the people around me, putting my work in and not really overthinking it, to be honest, because when I went and made good runs in that West Indies series, that's exactly what I was playing like. So it was, there's no real need for me to get too involved in what people are saying.
It's Ollie Pope shutting out the noise about his own form. It's interesting, Harmy, because you and I were both there commentating on one of the great England innings. I mean, that 196 at Hyderabad just showed us what he is capable of. I mean, his record at the Oval is just outstanding. I mean, it's hard to comprehend. He's still averaging in the 90s, I think, for Surrey. But that Michael Vaughan comment, that was interesting.
Yeah, I didn't hear the comment. I just read the headline and read the little bit that's in there. Look, everybody's entitled to have their opinion. I've got no doubt there's a lot of people disagree with my opinions. But I didn't. I mean, I had to read it 2 or 3 times. I was like, I didn't like that. I didn't enjoy it. But like I said, Michael's entitled to his. I'll criticise Ollie Pope batting at number 3, because I think at this moment in time he's struggling a little bit, and I think that captain hot tin roof for the first 10 balls, 20 balls, 30 balls is getting more and more. I think the roof's getting hotter. I think he's struggling to get his innings started. But the biggest thing I hated in the sort of media cricketers world was when there was a personal attack on the person, and I didn't quite enjoy that. I mean, Ollie's a lovely lad. He's a really, really nice guy. I mean, he's a valued member of that cricket team, and he's somebody who I think Ben's constantly trying to involve him in leadership groups to try and make him the best England captain and the next cab off the rank. Whether he will or not, who knows? He's won 2 Test matches. I mean, his review of LBWs is about as good as Stuart Broad's, so he'll have to work on that. But I think when I see not former players criticise other players from a personal point of view, but when a former captain who knows, not so much who should know better, but knows what it's like to lead their country, and I mean, they're big shoes to fill. Can you imagine walking in that dressing room trying to, make a big speech and trying to, rally the troops when you're not Ben Stokes, who's been doing it for 2 years? It must be so hard to go in there knowing that you're only going to do it until the Oval. You've got 3 Test matches. It's not as though Ollie can go, right, this is my team now, like Michael Vaughan did. Michael Vaughan took over from Nasser Hussain, went to Bangladesh. We've got to be fitter than anybody else. And I mean, he ripped up Nasser Hussain's, captaincy manual and went, right, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to be fitter. We're going to score faster. I mean, we're going to play front foot cricket. Ollie Pope hasn't got that luxury. He's got 3 Test matches. He's standing in for Ben Stokes. So if it was, you would be slightly concerned if this was happening and Ollie Pope was the England captain for the next 4 years. But give the kid a bit of break for me. I mean, he's won 2 Test matches. He's going to hand the baton back after the Oval Test match for Pakistan to Ben. When people get personal towards other cricketers, I really, really don't like that. And Michael's entitled to his opinion, and he's always got one. That's why he's a brilliant broadcaster. So I'm sure Michael and Ollie, if they can, have a conversation. And if Ollie's interested in a conversation, I wouldn't be. Whether there's something down the line as a former England captain towards a potentially current and future England captain, or whether Ollie Pope just goes, like I would, that's background noise, I'm not interested. I mean, Jeffrey Boycott used to do that to me all the time. I mean, once I fronted him up, and he said, "Oh, well done for." I was like, "I'm not well. I don't want to well done. I don't even care what you think. You've gone too far this time. So I'm telling you what I think of you." And then I just have these background noise and moved on. So Ollie, it's up to him how he takes criticism or praise, or he understands what a former England captain wants to say about him. My advice to Ollie, for what it's worth, is, get on and, make sure that number 3 spot is a spot that you can, score some runs at. The rest of it will look after itself. And I think that would be more of a concern for me than anything he's done from a captaincy point of view.
Okay, we'll look ahead to the third test in a little bit later in the programme. Does Josh Hull come in? Do England keep the team unchanged? Those things we'll talk about a little bit later, but we're out of time for this section. And a reminder that we'll bring you updates from that third and final test between England and Sri Lanka from Friday morning on talkSPORT, with the daily Following On podcast reacting to each day's play. You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. Next up, we'll discuss the worrying crowd numbers at Lord's, certainly on the last day anyway, and speak with Barmy Army Managing Director Chris Millard. You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with Double Ashes winner Steve Harmison. And you can now watch us on YouTube as well. If you're not doing that already, just head over to the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel and subscribe. And as promised, we're joined live by Chris Millard, Managing Director of the Barmy Army, who were allowed for the first time into Lord's officially for the test match against Sri Lanka. Chris, for those who don't know, and there will be plenty of viewers and listeners who aren't aware of this, is this just give us a little bit of background and history? I mean, is this just despicable, unapologetic snobbery from Lord's, or was there some awful event that we were not aware of years and years ago?
I'm going to have to be careful here, Manners, because we're in now. I don't want to upset anyone, but we're now it's been a case of the only ground in the world we've never been allowed in has been Lord's, and for whatever reason that is, they used to use the statement that they don't allow groups in, but obviously I think we all saw the Ashes last year, and the group of about 300 Aussies all in yellow sat next to each other diminished that. So I wrote to Guy and the guys at the MTC and thought it was time for another conversation. We hadn't spoken to them for about 5 years because it was the way it was. We had a really good conversation with Guy. He was quite progressive, forward thinking, and we got it done. It took us quite a while. We started talking the end of last summer, and we got an allocation by May this year. So it didn't move quickly, but look, we're in now. It's a pleasure to be in. It's great that we can finally tick off every ground. Our members are delighted, and looking ahead to the biggest series and the bigger games there, it's exciting.
Yeah, you have to be careful, but I don't, because I upset everybody apparently on this show. So I can say, pretty much what I feel. £95 for a day 4. I think not letting the Barmy Army in for so many years, is that just typical Lords? It is in my book. I know you've got to be careful, so I'm going to say it for you. I thought it was disgusting. £95 for a day 4 in test matches at this moment in time, when test match cricket, and you can come on to it about how test match needs needs a little bit of a boost because of the franchise and the white ball cricket. Did Lords just read the room wrong?
Yeah, I think it's been a case of, look, it's been eye-opening this year, hasn't it, that stadiums haven't been full for test match cricket. You normally bank on England for full stadiums, days 1 to 3 for test match cricket, and it is concerning. Obviously, the teams that we're playing against do make a difference. When you go into a game relatively confident England are going to win comfortably every game, it's not a spectacle that the fans want to see, and unfortunately the demise of the West Indies and Sri Lanka, it's clear in plain sight for everyone to see. And I think to not have the awareness to price a ticket strategically to make it affordable, to bring in that new audience to help them get access to test cricket and watch test cricket would have been a great thing to do, but it was a bit of an oversight, unfortunately, but hopefully they'll make some changes for when we play the smaller teams again in a few years' time.
There was one member of your famous member of your organisation who wasn't allowed in, or at least Simon Finch might have been allowed in, but his trumpet wasn't.
Yes, come on, man. There's a step at a time. I mean, we've got the allocation, but allowing a trumpet in at Lords is hopefully one for next year. But look, I think we've got the one other ground in the world is Trent Bridge that doesn't allow a trumpet, which is just beyond belief, because you go to Trent Bridge, the atmosphere could be the same as Headingley, Edgbaston, but it's not. You get football fans singing football songs because they're the easiest ones to catch on. But when you've got the trumpet, it makes more of a cricket atmosphere. So what you have at Trent Bridge is a case where we've got a lot of members in, a lot of people are wanting to sing songs, but no one to organise them. And then Lords is different. I know that the guys singing Jerusalem on day one were asked to sit down by the stewards, and until the message got through that no, we're allowed to do this now. So we're getting there. But look, I can't get my head around it. People still don't realise he's a professional trumpet player. He's on our payroll. He's a very professional man. He's not going to start blurting off. He knows the rules of cricket and the laws, and he's very good. So the more we can get the message out there that he's part of our organisation and part of English cricket heritage almost, the better.
And that's the tough questions out of the way. So we park Lords for 1 second. Very good. Well done. Chris, going forward, are the tours getting harder to sell for the Barmy Army because of the way Test match cricket is, as other touring parties are going out? It seems as though, like we said, Chris, Test match needs a little bit of a revive.
Yeah, it's been a really hard sale this year, to be honest. We're going to Pakistan and New Zealand again after being there really recently, and people are struggling anyway financially this year, and the sales have dwindled massively from the Pakistan tours being incredibly difficult. And we heard last week that they might change the original venue, which is leaving us in a position where we've committed to flights, we've committed to hotels. PCB don't refund us for our flights and hotels, so we'll make a big significant loss if that test fixture is moved, and then we'll have to question whether we go at all or we just pull the tour to avoid any further hits financially. New Zealand's a little bit better, but again, it's a long way to go. Just before an Ashes tour a year before, it's very expensive, so it is getting harder, and it's all to do with the schedule and the lack of awareness from the future planning program when they release this round of test series is in plain sight for people to see. There won't be as many people touring this winter, unfortunately, and it's something that needs to be addressed. I was at the World Cricket Connect meeting. I brought that up, and there needs to be a more unified approach to how we can support the game together. I know me and you, Harmy, mentioned it this summer, but how you can play day-night test matches and then come off a bad light every bloody test is just beyond beggars' belief. Surely something can be done to make changes within the game to make sure that paying fans, if they are paying £95 a day, they get a full day.
Okay. I know that you and Joe Root go back a long way, Chris. This is more of a personal question, really. We've already established, Harmy and I, in part one of this show that Joe Root's the greatest. We concur with Sir Alistair Cook, who said absolutely he's the greatest. What a special test match for Joe. And it's not just hundreds number 33 and 34. It's the way he scored them. And showing that he doesn't have to bat Bazball. He can still bat like Joe. You must have been very chuffed for him.
Incredibly proud. And we've followed, obviously, a close friend. We've followed the journey from day one, from his first test match in India, right the way through to where he is now. You say, would you have thought he'd go on to break all the records to become the best in the world? He probably hazard a guess that he'd be up there because of how good he is, how talented he is, but also how committed he is to the game. It's not that what everyone sees on the screen. It's more, if you go around to us for a barbecue, you play garden cricket. He loves the game more than most people, and I think that's testament to where he is now. And he's going to go on to break all the records, and I really hope he does. I know he's got it in the back of his mind. Look, he's an absolute one of the most competitive persons I've ever met in my life. So for him to bow out being the best in the world, yeah, he wants to take on Tendulkar. I don't doubt that for 1 minute.
Yeah, there's still hopefully a lot of life still in Joe Root yet. We're going to have to get 3-4 more years out of him if he wants to to break Sachin Tendulkar's record. And that, for me, I mean, that's a great thing. You mentioned I met him as a 17-year-old, 18-year-old, and when I first seen him play and thought, yeah, this kid is going to break records because he is that good. But to get past Sachin, he's got to go for another 3 or 4 years and possibly more. One of them years is Australia away. Where's the Barmy Army when it comes to, the Ashes planning and everything that goes with it? Is it a case of England win 6 Test matches this summer? They go and play against Pakistan and New Zealand in the winter. They've got India coming. That's going to be a big series for England, as for the Barmy Army. But the big one is always the Ashes, and you'll have a big party going away. What's that looking like at the moment?
Yeah, it's obviously we've not actually been for 8 years as a supporters club because of COVID and because of the last tour that happened that wasn't allowed to travel to. So this is going to be the biggest one of all time. We think there's going to be thousands of people traveling over. We've already got over 500 people that have pledged allegiance to us in purchasing a priority access pass through the Barmy Army. So they've already committed some money financially to come in on that tour, and to have 500 people before the dates are even announced for it's pretty exciting. I think we've got so much ahead. That Ashes tour is going to be really, really big not only because of we've not been there for a while, but it's probably going to be the last one that Stokes is going to play, and maybe he'll play another one at home, but certainly his last away Ashes, you'd have thought. Possibly Joe's last away Ashes. He'd do very well to keep going another 4 years after that, but knowing what he's like, I won't put it past him. I think the one carrot that England fans have still got about whether or not Joe will be there is he's still not scored 100 in Australia in an Ashes. So I know he'll want to tick that box before he makes any decisions about his future.
Chris, thanks so much for your time. There are lots of people around the world, cricket fans, and I know you've got a meeting now, so I'll bet it's very, very quick. But the Barmy Army was, nicknamed the Barmy Army years ago, decades ago, when it was sort of predominantly, young backpackers and rabble rousers and beer drinkers, and it's so much more sophisticated, if I can use that word, than it used to be. I wonder whether you kind of considered introducing categories, or maybe the Barmy Army Elite or Barmy Army Silver, to sort of it's changed. I know from personal experience that the whole operation has changed so much, and I wonder whether some people are sort of still confused about that.
I think, we've still got a job to do to tell the story. Still, people think it's a group of people that get together voluntarily and a trumpet player comes along and it all happens by magic. But the truth of the matter is we've got 18 full-time staff that sit in an office 9 to 5, like most other people working full-time do, and that are committed to the brand, they're driving the brand forward with myself because they believe in we've got such a big opportunity to create something very memorable. And over the last 10 years, I think we've done a good job in building the reputation, the brand, the membership, the following. We've got over 2 million followers now. We've got over 40,000 members, but we've still got a big job to do. There's still a lot of interest. There's still a lot of appetite, and it's something that we're all still very driven to keep developing. But we just need to keep telling that story that no, we're not a bunch of guys that meet up in the pub and book holidays together and do all that. There's far more to it. It's far more diverse than everyone thinks. We've got over 20% of women that travel with us overseas. And we've got a lot of people from diverse backgrounds and communities as well that love England and love cricket and want to be a part of what we do. So I need to keep banging that drum, telling that story and enjoying it at the same time.
Chris, thanks so much for your time. Much appreciated.
Thanks for having me on. Cheers, guys.
Chris Millard, Managing Director of the Barmy Army. You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. And next up, we'll look back at a really busy week of county championship action as Jack Leach spins Somerset to victory to keep their championship hopes alive. And Johnny Bairstow hits his first red ball century in 2 years. I'm delighted to say now that Jack Leach, as promised at the top of the programme, joins us live after celebrating his match figures of 12 for 174, including 7 for 50s. Took the last 2 wickets to help Somerset to victory over Durham in the county championship. The result leaves them just 24 points behind Surrey now. I say just 24 points behind, but they play them next week, Jack. You play Surrey next week, you win that one, and you are right in the title race. First of all, congratulations. I was following it on the stream, and it just started raining at Taunton, hadn't it? I mean, was there a sense of it's now or never? I've got to take these wickets now.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was a good day for us yesterday and for the whole 4 days. And yeah, the weather, I didn't really turn up yesterday thinking there was going to be rain around, but there were, a couple of showers during the day. A little bit frustrating, but we felt like we had enough time to get what we needed to do done. But then obviously, yeah, it did start raining just as we were coming off, and then I think it kept raining for quite a long time. So, yeah, you look back and you think, oh, maybe it was sort of now or never. So, yeah, great result. And, yeah, it just keeps things alive. And, big game against Surrey next week.
Jack, how's the season been? Because obviously you were, away with the winter, you got the injury. You then obviously didn't get selected for the sort of the test matches this summer. How has that gone down with you in the season, and where you've been with your cricket, personally, and obviously going back into the county system, and how's that gone?
Yeah, it's been really good. I think firstly, wherever I was playing my cricket this year, I was just excited to be playing cricket again after being injured for so long. So yeah, it's been really great being back with the Somerset guys and trying to help them win games, and we're having a really good season. So hopefully, with a good back end, we could do some special things in all three competitions. So that's been really good. I think I'm really proud of what the England boys are doing. Still in contact with a lot of them. Obviously won 5 out of 5 this summer, and yeah, obviously disappointed to not be there with them, but I really do understand. Bash is an amazing bowler, and I'm very proud of what he's doing as well. So yeah, I guess there's 2 separate parts to it: my journey and England's journey. I'm still very proud to have played in that team, and if there's opportunity along the way coming up, then great. But yeah, just had such a good time playing in that team, and I think just excited for them and what they're achieving at the moment, and if I come back into the fold at some point, then great. But if not, I had a great time.
Jack, the captain Ben Stokes was effusive in his praise and backing of you. You were a key man for him. I assume that he still backs you, but a lot of people won't understand the dynamic, and explore that a little bit more about Shoaib Bashir not being able to get into the Somerset team ahead of you, and yet he's playing for England. So I mean, there's a lot of people who don't understand the dynamic, who think that might be awkward, but evidently it's not.
Yeah, I think that might change moving forward, and I think I found that awkward as well, to be honest. I felt like if Bash was, I think we found out the news just before there was a championship game, and yeah, I sort of put that forward as like Bash should play and I should sit out, and but Somerset wanted to pick me, and I have to kind of respect that, and yeah, I think moving forward that can change, and but yeah, I think it could be that one of us, if one of us is at England, then the other one's at Somerset, so that actually there is room for both of us there, and I don't want to get in the way of what Bash is doing, and I think but yeah, also I want to achieve things as well, so it is a tricky one. But I think we've dealt with it very well, and Bash is a great lad, and he's been very understanding, and I hope I have been as well. So yeah.
And Jack, I mean, it makes me feel old when I see Ian Vaughan on your team sheet, because I've talked about it so fondly. You know, going through that journey with my generation, my team, and being there when Tallulah and Archie was born for Michael, and Rocky and Corey and Holly was born for Andrew Flintoff, and Sam Strauss was born obviously with Straussy, and Ernie with Hoggard. All the kids that come on tour in nappies and growing up and everything like that. To now see them playing, I mean, I scratch my head and think, where on earth has life gone? But I mean, he's hit the ground running. What's it like? I mean, to see, you probably grew up watching that era of 02, 03, 04, 05 team come through, and then so to see you're now in the team and opening the bowling in spin department with Archie Vaughan, I must admit, you must have to look and think, am I getting old?
Yeah, it's true, actually. He came in this week for his debut and did really well, and shown a lot of promise as well. So, I do forget that he's Vaughan's son, to be honest. He's a great lad, and great to have around. And I do. There have been moments this season when you're with the younger guys, and you do start thinking, I am getting on a bit, because I think it was earlier in the season when I had to mention, I was talking about Ian Blackwell to one of the youngsters, and I said, he played for England. They were like, what? He played for England? They thought he was just an umpire. And I was like, no, he was a proper player, like he was so good. And they were like, oh, I just thought he was an umpire.
Yeah, excuse the size. He was a player. Yeah, but the thing I'd be saying to the kids would be, he was that size when he played as well. So I mean, Blackie was a great player. I'll laugh and joke. I can't believe that Phil Mustard and Ian Blackwell are more or less on the first class umpires, because they hated cricket. They hated being on the field. And I thought, you know what? If I turn up to a game of cricket and seen them two as an umpire, if this game goes more than 3 days, I'll be amazed.
Yeah, well, Blackie does any chance of rain, and he's taking us off. So he's still got that in
him. Jack, you've taken fifer in your last 3 innings, and Rob Key did say, I think when Bash was selected, that you, well, I think he said that you would be, if not guaranteed, the second spinner role on the tour of Pakistan, but certainly in the running. But I mean, they do say, that all you can do is take wickets. That's exactly what you're doing. 12 in the last game. Has Ben or Rob spoken to you about Pakistan?
Yeah, there's been little bits, I think, but that that was quite a while ago, and I understand how things can change. There's been quite a lot of wickets to spin this round, and there's some guys putting in some great performances. So you know how it is. I don't want to get my hopes up or think there's no guarantees. So I think, but for me, I think this summer's been about sort of me getting back to my best, and it has taken longer than I probably thought, or I probably underestimated how long it would take in terms of how long I was out with injury. And I'm still sort of feeling like I'm just getting back to my best now, which is great. And I think an area for me was to be more consistent, so that's obviously been good the last few games, and something I want to continue. And the other thing that's been great is playing all 3 formats of cricket. Obviously beforehand was playing a lot of the longer format and not really having time for anything else. So it's been nice to sort of adapt my bowling to other formats and learn a little bit along the way. And I do genuinely feel, even though I mentioned my age, I do feel like I'm still learning and getting better. And so I want to explore how good I can get, and then whoever I'm playing for, then just put in performances for that team.
Jack, there's a lot of talk about in first class cricket. I mean, it's so frustrating sometimes here. Obviously, we were all out in India, and whenever you get on a dusty pitch and it's spinning sideways, and Taunton always gets a little bit of hammer. Essex got a bit of hammer when Simon Harmer was always getting the wickets. I mean, you've been around for a little bit. I'm not going to go your age again here, but you've been around for a little. You've been around for a little bit. You're experienced character, experienced player. Is it important that first class cricket you are playing not only on seamer friendly pitches, you're playing on flat pitches over the course of a 6-month period? You've got to play on spinning pitches if England want to get better. And over the course of this summer, when we've had a Duke ball and a Kookaburra ball, we have seen spin bowlers come to the fore a little bit. And from your point of view, does that give you a good feeling that the spinners are coming through? Because for a long while, I mean, you stood alone by yourself as England's #1 spinner, and the backup spinners, I mean, there were batters who bowled a little bit. But now, is that important that we have the structure of English cricket over the course of 14 first-class matches that has all different types of seamer, flat, and spinning pitches for players to develop?
Yeah, definitely. It's a great point. I think it's huge, and yeah, it kind of gets highlighted every time we go to the subcontinent, and that's where I find it a little bit frustrating when our pitch is being brought into question, and I don't know. It just feels like sometimes when you're taking wickets on us, a spinning wicket, because it's spinning, it's like, oh, well, that's why you're taking wickets, rather than actually you've got to be a good bowler to take wickets on those kind of surfaces. And there's pressures that come with it, and there's things to experience that you will experience in the subcontinent, where people look round at you when the first ball spins off straight and everyone goes, right, over to you, and dealing with that, as much as the skills and stuff is really important. So, I'm probably biased as a spinner, but I do like, that you can play on a range of pitches, and that I guess seaming wickets and spinning wickets are judged fairly, both of those, because I think from going around the world, you get a mixture of flat pitches and spinning surfaces, and yes, wickets that net more in this country, but then you're mainly looking at flatter wickets and ones that spin. So in terms of getting people ready for international cricket, I think it's a good thing.
Finally, from me anyway, Jack, there is this perception that spinners develop later than batsmen or fast bowlers. That they don't peak until they sort of after 30. So we're back onto age again, but the opposite spectrum. What do you think of Jack Carson? I think he's 23, and Farhan Ahmed, who's 16. He became the youngest youngest bowler to take 10 in a championship match in the last round. He's 16 years old, and he bowled 74 overs. So while you contemplate your thoughts on those two, I'd also love to know what you thought of Joe Root's last Test match.
Yeah, I'll talk about Rooty first. I think, what an amazing player and amazing guy. Obviously, spent a lot of time with him in the England dressing room, and I grew up actually playing with him as well, because we were the same age groups. I played some England under-15s and at regional tournaments and stuff. So Rooty's obviously, just what he's doing is incredible, and he's I don't have enough words to kind of describe how good he's been. He's just so consistent, and I think it's something we all aim for is to have that consistency in our games. And the work that he puts in, you watch him in the nets, how much he puts into it, and he deserves every bit of success that he's getting. So really happy for him. And back to those two younger guys, I mean, I did a Lions trip out to Abu Dhabi last winter and saw a lot of the young spinners, and Jack Carson was one of them. And I love chatting to him. We've had a lot of talks about spin, and whenever I see him, and he's eager to learn, and he's got that hunger for sure. And the way the ball comes out is brilliant. He was working with Graham Swan over there, so that's an amazing thing for him and his game. And looks like he's coming on leaps and bounds. So yeah, you think 23, where he could be in, you know, a few years' time as well. And then Ahmed at 16 is just ridiculous, to be honest. Yeah, so but yeah, he's a massive talent. Obviously played with his brother, and if he's got the same attitude as his brother, he's going to go a long way, because you know, again, the amount they just love cricket and their hunger as well. And I can imagine, yeah, in the family there's a lot of competition, and yeah, amazing to see. And I think that is the great thing about how Keezy and the guys are doing things, in terms of, you know, that Lions squad they picked that was, you know, very young, and giving them that opportunity. And then maybe that gives, you know, the counties a little bit more belief in them, that actually they could pick these younger guys. And yeah, he got his opportunity and took it. So fantastic to see. And yeah, excited to see, you know, where these guys go from here.
Just finally, Jack, from me. Oh, sorry, I was going to ask one more. Somerset, what, 4 games left? 3-4 games left? Can you catch Surrey?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. But you know, all we can, you know, we have to beat them next week, and then we'll see. We might need someone else to do us a favour, but and hope that the weather kind of goes our way as well. But yeah, we'll give it a good go for sure. It's something that's never been done at the club, so it's something that we're really desperate to do every year. And yeah, we'll give it a good go. And then we've also got obviously the 50 over final and a quarter final this week as well. So it's exciting time at the club, lots of young guys involved, and yeah, exciting to see.
Well, it's wonderful to see you back on the field and knocking them over. Karachi and Rawalpindi wait, Jack, await in October.
We'll see.
Thank you so much for your time. Well, but enjoy the rest of the season.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with Durham Hall of Famer Steve Harmison. And don't forget, you can subscribe to the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel for more exclusive content. And this week, features include an exclusive interview with outgoing Cricket West Indies CEO Johnny Grave, who discussed the mooted ICC Test Fund.
I think cricket as a game needs to think much more as a league and as a team. It needs to understand everyone's business models a bit better. And I think there are some positive noises from the big three. I think the Test Fund was a good initiative. I don't know that $15 million a year will make any difference to anything. I think the idea of paying a test fee of $10,000 is not even window dressing. I mean, we pay our players $10,000. So I sort of smiled when I saw that come out in the press, going, well, how's that going to change cricket? And how's that going to be the saviour of Test cricket when our players are already getting paid that? So it's not going to make any difference to us. What will make a difference, in my opinion, to improve West Indies Test cricket is by playing more 3-match series rather than 2-match series, by having dedicated test windows where you're not competing against franchise opportunities, of actually supporting our 18 program. We really struggle to get 18 tours, but actually, you know, the best stepping stone for a player to go from, I don't think any player that I've ever met in my 25 years of working the game has said that, you know, there's very little difference between playing county championship and test match cricket, or for us playing West Indies. It's completely different. And the A-team environment does help in terms of, even if the standard's is still a big difference in standard, at least you're touring, you're away from home, you're playing in foreign conditions, so that when you next go to England, some of the things that you're facing as a human rather than as a cricketer, you're a bit more accustomed to. And little things like that would make, in my opinion, more of a difference to West Indies cricket than, you know, 15 million divided by 12 test match teams. You know, that's still significant money to Cricket West Indies, but it's a rounding error for lots of others. And paying players minimum fees, maybe, but, you know, Harmy will tell you, do you want to go to England against, a red ball that's moving all over the place and swinging round corners for $30,000 for a 3-test series? Or do you want to go to America and play 6 games where you're bowling 4 overs and you can whack it for 6, and if you get out, so what? And if you tee off, then you're a hero and you're going to get paid 400 grand. You're not the difference in earnings. I don't think people understand enough, because otherwise you wouldn't suggest it. Because any person, in my opinion, for the same amount of time, $30,000 versus 400,000, it's not the world's toughest decision in my book. So, but I welcome the debate, and I'm not saying that I or we in West Indies have all the answers, but we welcome the debate. We welcome the slight change in mindset, which is the big 3 just can't play against themselves. They've got to have some stronger opposition. We've got to get jeopardy back in. We've got to get competitive balance. And to a certain extent, some of that has changed. The fact that we hosted the 2024 World Cup was a change in mindset and philosophy, because the previous 8 years, all those high revenue men's events were exclusively held in England, Australia, and India. So the fact that we've hosted one, the US has, the fact that South Africa, Zimbabwe, Namibia will co-host, that New Zealand will co-host with Australia and Ireland with England, that is a change in mindset that we welcome. So, but hopefully, we can continue on that path of, thinking as a team, thinking like we're a game of cricket and that we all rely.
And you can watch the full interview on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel, which Harmy and I did with Johnny a couple of days ago. You know what's the only thing that surprised me there, Harmy? I mean, we both knew that Johnny was forthright and honest, and we knew that he would speak well, and he did. But he was quite clear that it was a mutual decision. It wasn't his decision, and it wasn't the Cricket West Indies board. I originally thought that he had decided to step down, but he did make it very clear that it was a mutual decision. So perhaps the board did think that it was time to move on. I can't think why. I can't think there's too many people who are going to do as good a job.
Yeah, I can't think they do as good a job. The only thing sometimes I'm quite cynical of some boards, the likes of the Pakistan board, the West Indies, which can be quite political. Somebody might fancy higher up the food chain going, well, it's in such a good position now, I'll go and take it on, and we want somebody from the West Indies, I will take it on. And it wouldn't surprise me, and I hope this is not true. It wouldn't surprise me if in 5 years' time all the work that Johnny's undoubtedly done gets unravelled by the political world of 14 different countries, 5 territories, and makes a complete holics of running West Indies Cricket Board again, because it wasn't in a great place when Johnny took over. And I'm saying this because the facts are, I'm not saying it because he's one of my mates, but he has put West Indies in such a fine position from a financial point of view, and that's what it means. It's all about finance, and they've got the high performance centre. They've got their ducks in a row to get players playing a lot of franchise cricket. He can be proud of what he's done as CEO. I don't know where he's going to end up. I hope he stays in cricket, because not only is he a good man, he's a very, very intelligent man when it comes to the workings of cricket. So is he going to come back? Can the ECB find a role for him? I'm not so sure. Whether he goes into the ICC, I'd love him to go into the ICC and try and unravel that debacle at this moment in time. But it looks like Shah is going to be in charge of the ICC as well. So I'm not sure. What do you think of that? I was going to ask you, because I know you're the one that's normally asked the questions, and I'm forthright with my opinions. But you've really been around a long, long time, Manners, and you've seen the powerhouse of India just get more and more powerful. What do you think of the Shah going in as involved with the ICC? Because he is Mr. Cricket. He is in charge of, obviously, the world cricket, because he's in charge of the BCCI. And now he's got a chance to shape ICC. Is it a good thing that India, because they are in charge anyway, is it a good thing that the man that's in charge of Indian cricket potentially has a big role in the world?
In military and political terms, Harmy, they call it a bloodless coup. he's just he said, right, I'm taking over. You can move out.
Yeah.
And that nobody. Have you heard a single dissenting voice? I mean,
No.
it's pathetic. As in the original Latin term pathos. I mean, it is pathetic. A reflection on cricket that nobody has said with any authority has said, hang on a sec. We've got a good guy in there. Why he's got two? He can serve 2 more years. Anyway, we just have to hope that there's an element of benevolent dictator about Jay Shah. But you know, his time was coming to an end at the BCCI. He wants to stay. He can't stay in charge of that board, so he went to the next most powerful position, and I mean next most powerful position, but because he comes from the BCCI and he's now going to be in charge of the ICC, he better have some benevolence about him, because it is a dictatorial move. As I said, it's a bloodless coup. We'll have to do that all next week, Harmy. That's a story that'll run and run, and we'll also have to keep this one very short as well. You know, the way T20 leagues around the world, especially in the IPL when it first began, so we need Australians, and you have these Australians who you'd never heard of being bought by the Rajasthan Royals, and you know, Shane Warne would get his mates in, and if you were an Australian and you could play cricket, you could get a T20 gig. It seems that that's now moving towards England. You know, the BBL's just signed 14 Englishmen for the Big Bash. Lots of familiar names there. Ollie Pope's going, Jamie Overton, Tom Curran, Ben Duckett. But it's also extending to the likes of Keaton Jennings was a name that surprised me. But how about Matthew Hurst and Jaffa Chowan? You know, talented young cricketers, I'm sure, but on the lesser known side of the fame scale.
Yeah, I think the Aussies will be scratching their heads and wondering who are these. I tell you what, the Matthew Hurst and the Jaffa Chowan ones, especially, them two are very, very talented. Really, really talented. I commentated on them both in the Durham games that they had so far this season, and I was like, especially Hurst. I mean, Lancashire have got 4 or 5 very good wicketkeeper batters. This kid's 20 years old. I think he is on an upward trajectory for the future. I really do. I think he will play for England, along with Jacob Bethel, who is also in there, who is going to get a chance to play for England in the not too distant future. So you've got your usual suspects who have, you know, I mean, the franchise gravy train of the likes of Chris Jordan, Laurie Evans, James Vinci, and Sam Billings. The interesting ones for me is Ben Duckett's in there, and so is Ollie Pope. And this, you know, BBL, it coincide with the New Zealand Test Series, England's Test Series at New Zealand, and also the one-day series, the white ball one-day series in January with India. So Rob Key might have a few interesting decisions, shall we say, to make on who plays what and where, when, you know, quite a few of them are centrally contracted.
Yeah, I can't imagine that anybody's. I mean, you can't see that Ben Duckett's going to say, "I'm sorry, I can't play the 3rd test because I need to go and join my Big Bash franchise." But there could be some very interesting decisions to be made. We'll keep a close eye on that. Now, other stories that have caught the eye. Harmy, David Malan's retired from international cricket. Do you think he'd feature in the conversation of the most undervalued international cricketers or underappreciated international cricketers? You and I raised the question often over the last 3 years, you know, particularly in the T20 team. You know, we'd often ask about his strike rate, but, you know, at the end, he's walked away with 22 test matches, 30 ODIs, 62 T20s. Only 2 Englishmen have scored 100 in all 3 formats. Josh Butler's the other one. He was a very, very fine player for England, and I think that people might realise that perhaps now that he's retired more than they did when he was playing.
Yeah, he had a stellar career, especially in the T20 format. When you reach number 1 in the world, I mean, that's you've built to that. I mean, you've built that. You're top of your class, and you know, I did it for 10 months. I mean, and I make the joke that Shane Warne was on a drugs ban, McGrath was injured, Murray was injured, and one or two others. I play it down, but I feel as though for 18 months, I probably was. And I look at David Malan in T20 cricket and in white ball form of cricket. David Malan was one of the best players in the world for about 2 or 3 years. He really was. And yes, his strike rate wasn't as, crash bang wallop to the way the game was going. The franchise game was going in such a fast paced trajectory that the stylish hit the ball through the field as opposed to over the field was still effective. It just possibly was underappreciated. And yeah, I think we all knew that once David Malan was finished as a player, I don't think he would be as appreciated until somebody actually said, look at his numbers, look at what he's won. And he was #1 ranked batter in the world for a prolonged period of time. That tells you, for me, he had a very, very good career. So he can be proud of his career. I don't think he was as appreciated as what some of the other players were. Was he a good mixer in the dressing room or whatever the issues were? I'm not so sure. I don't privy to that information. But I tell you the one thing about him, for a 2 or 3 year period, when David Malan went out to bat for England in coloured clothing, you could hang your hat on. He was going to be one of England's top scorers.
Phenomenal. Other stories. I was going to ask you about Shaheen Afridi being dropped by Pakistan for the second Test match against Bangladesh. They have to win it to square the series, and they dropped their best bowler. But we haven't got time. You can maybe tell us about that next week. Shannon Gabriel has retired as well. Probably best known or best remembered for the piece of commentary from the great Fazia Mohammed when he was out to the final ball of a Test match. Oh dear me, against Pakistan, and Fazia yelled, "Why did he do that?"
I think the dressing room was saying that. It wasn't just the commentator.
He bowled a heavy ball, Harmy. He was a tough guy to face.
He was tough guy to face. He was a big, heavy lad as well. I mean, he was, a strong-boned, big fella that hit the deck hard. He was a man after my own heart. Remember, we were out in the Caribbean a few years back, and there was him and O'Shane Thomas just bowling ball after ball after ball at lunchtime. And I mean, it was like, come on. Well, we were like, come on, the West Indies, give these two lads a game. I mean, lunchtime, tea time, they must have bowled about 20, 30 balls each off a full run-up. So now he's a good cricketer, Shannon Gabriel, but he will be remembered for that big hike to the leg side and missed everything. And brilliant. And it wasn't just the commentator was going, what on earth are you doing? I'm sure most of his teammates were doing the same, but he has had a good career because, 59 Test matches is a lot of Test matches for the amount the West Indies play.
Okay, it's on to the final word, Harmy, and we've got a whole bunch of things to choose from. Your thoughts? I've got some other. Farhan Ahmed is actually the guy I want to give my final word to.
Yeah, I agree. I think time is a good healer. I played against Lou Vincent, and you could see there was a lot going on inside his life and his mind. That's not sticking up for him. It's not condoning that match fixing is, a scourge of all evil in cricket. But you're right, Sanjay Surya. There's been countless others who have fallen foul and been given a chance of redemption. Lou Vincent, I think he played 100 Test matches for New Zealand. He went through a hell of a lot, and I'm pleased. And it won't be a popular opinion, but I'm pleased they did recognise that he did play 100 Test matches for his country because, he was a fine player and he just took the wrong path. But at the end of it, it's such a difficult subject to talk about, the match fixing and what length of ban and what severe it is. Is it total, that's it? Once you've done it, you should not be involved in cricket? Or is there circumstances to how you've gotten to that point? And I think the Lou Vincent story probably was, the mental health struggles that he was going through, took some dark roads and he shouldn't have taken them. But at the end of the day, you can understand how he got to that point.
Yeah, there are many who say that, sometimes you can get between 5 and 7 years for manslaughter, but it's life for match fixing. Anyway, the two guys, Harmy, that Farhan Ahmed became the youngest man to take 10 wickets in a match in first class cricket in England at the age of just over 16, and it's staggering achievement. But he's bowled 76 overs. He bowled unchanged with Liam Patterson-White in the second innings against Surrey. Yeah, 53 overs between them. Absolutely phenomenal performance. 76 overs at the age of 16. I don't care that he's an off spinner. Congratulations to him. And then I was flicking through the high scoring draw scorecard between Middlesex and Yorkshire, and I saw that Dom Bess bowled 70 in one innings. We decry the 2.5 day county championship game, don't we? But my goodness me, there's some boys gone through some work this week.
Yeah, they have, and people say the Kookaburra ball's back. I mean, we're trying to get in, so we're giving the spinners the best chance. Moriarty bowled 60 as well. So no, I mean, the Farhan Ahmed one, it's an interesting one, because if he was a seamer, he could only bowl. I'm not sure what the rule is when the player first, if they go into first class cricket. I think they can only bowl 7 overs in one spell if you're a 16-year-old seamer, because I know that through Charlie. And you're only allowed to bowl something like 9 or 11 in a day. So, if Farhan Ahmed was a seamer, that's like 7. That's 7 innings. Do you know what I mean? So it's great to see, though. I've been so warmed that this week has been a brilliant round of county championships. We've seen some very, very good, exciting young players make not so much their debuts, but in Farhan Ahmed's case, another one of his debut, and they've all contributed. Farhan Ahmed, Michael Vaughan's son, Archie Vaughan, obviously Rocky was playing. There's one or two others there's somebody else I'm missing. It's on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of who it is at this moment in time, but they're all been given a chance by their counties, and they've all performed very, very well. So it just seems that the innocence of youth going into the big league, they don't feel pressure whatsoever. And that, for me, is so good for English cricket going forward.
I can tell you who you were thinking of. Jack Carson took 10 for Sussex in an innings victory over Derbyshire. And the brilliant Liam Dawson, talking of underappreciated cricketers, my goodness, he also took 10 for Hampshire and scored 100. Two very fine cricketers at different stages of their career. So that's it. Army, that's it for this week. You've been listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with the one and only Steve Harmison. And if you missed the show and you want to catch up, you can download the podcast from the Following On feed on the free talkSPORT app. But you know that, I've said it 100 times, if not more. We'll be back next week to look back at the third test and ahead to England's T20 series with Australia. But for now, this has been Following On.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.